Welcome to Weeby Games. Today we're going over the most popular Atari 2600 games. I can't wait to start going over the game list. Let's start setting up the old console system and see what games were popular at the time. We have come a long way in gaming since this time. These games are the predecessor to the current games we play today. A number of these games are still fun to play, no matter the age.
First on the list is Pitfall. Pitfall was released in 1982, developed by David Crane, and published by Activision. Pitfall has a timer of 20 minutes to seek treasures in a jungle. When this game was released, it had become one of Atari 2600's top-selling games, holding the top charts for 64 weeks, with over 1 million sold in 1982, which was a lot considering the game did not release until September of that year. It had went on to sell 3.5 million sold by 1984. Up next is Frogger. Frogger was released in 1981, developed by Konami, and published by Sega for the arcade. In 1982, Parker Brothers received the license from Sega for the Atari cartridge version of the game. Parker Brothers' console version received $40 million in revenue just in the first few days of launch. By the end of the fourth year, Parker Brothers had sold 4 million cartridges for the Atari 2600 with a revenue of $80 million. And we thought that Pitfall did well. Looks like Frogger is in the lead. Moving along to the next game, which needs no introduction. We have the mighty Donkey Kong. In 1981, Nintendo developed and published Donkey Kong for the arcades. Atari was granted a license for its computers and console systems. Donkey Kong had become a Nintendo mascot right along with Mario Brothers. One of the most recognizable names linked with Nintendo, but cross-platformed over almost every system to this very day. The story of Donkey Kong goes much deeper with court battles, where it almost never came to be. We will cover that in its own segment in a later video at a later time. Keep a lookout for it as we move to the next game. Next on the list is, of course, Pac-Man. In 1982, Atari developed and published Pac-Man port of Namco's 1980 arcade game. Pac-Man remains the best-selling Atari 2600 game of all time. It sold over 8 million copies and was rated the best-selling video game. However, despite its success, it was among one of the worst ports of the Namco arcade game. Pac-Man on the Atari 2600 system had poor graphics and sound than other games made for the Atari that year. Eventually, Pac-Man became the mascot of the Atari 2600 system packaged with the system. During the final days of the Atari 2600, the system started selling a combo pack with the system, Combat, and Pac-Man. Pac-Man did see the courts also, as Atari sued Magnavox Odyssey over a game called KC Munchkin. Even though Atari had won a preliminary injunction against Philips to prevent the sale of the game, several other clones made their way into the market. With too many clones coming out, Atari had to give up on trying to limit Pac-Man to just its console. Even though the game is lame, the same pattern, same stage all the time, the only thing that changed was the speed of the game. With its low-level graphics compared to other games, this version of Pac-Man is nothing more than a collectible today. Moving along to our next game, Miss Pac-Man, developed in 1982 by General Computer Corporation and published by Midway Manufacturing for the arcades. This was the first entry into the Pac-Man sequels that was not made by Namco. The Atari 2600 version was released in 1984 and received Video Game of the Year. Miss Pac-Man had 4 different mazes before they repeated with a faster speed. The graphics for the Atari was much better than Pac-Man, another game that stood out for the Atari 2600 system. Later consoles and versions, of course, either came close to matching the graphics and gameplay of the arcade game. But for its time, on a home-based console system, the Atari 2600 led the way. I hope you enjoyed the game titles that we have went over today for the Atari 2600. Please stay tuned for upcoming videos dealing with the Atari console units. In each video, I will cover 5 games until the list is spent. Then we will move on to the next console and review the games that were either made or ported to those units. If you enjoyed this method of delivery, please like and subscribe. It will help us keep the channel going.
Hope you enjoyed the video on the Atari games. Now it is time for a trip. Go over and check out Ready Set Travel with the link below.